It's Friday, everybody. Episode 2 of The Rundown. Kyle Stackpole joins me. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I already miss football.
I miss football too. It's been what, 2 full weeks now since well, not 2 full weeks, about a week and a half since we seen the guys on the field. But
I mean, we got mini camp. We got 3 straight days when we saw them, and now we got to wait until late July. So I feel like talking with you is getting me through. So we'll see what we can cover today.
Good coping method. Me and you just talking about football. Last week we talked about the rookies, just our biggest takeaways from some of those guys. This week we're going to delve more into the roster. We're going to go quarterbacks and running backs today. I feel like with so many guys on the roster and with these 2 position groups, this is probably the only 2 position groups we can probably talk about, in this segment. As we go on, as we keep continuing, next week will be wide receivers, a lot of those guys tight ends. I mean, position by position, I guess these next few weeks will be, just more so talking about how these guys fit. I mean, the competition we'll see in training camp and, so on and so forth. So I'll let you start it off. I mean, anything you got, go for it, man.
Yeah, so like you said, going to cover quarterbacks and running backs today, and they're 2 of the more intriguing position groups heading into training camp. The quarterback position, because there's a competition between Dwayne Haskins, Case Keenum, Colt McCoy is going to come back in training camp, and so it's a 3-man race, and we don't know what's going to happen yet. And then with the running backs, we know who we have: Geis, AP, Chris Thompson, Samaje, Bryce Love. Now it's a matter of how these carries going to get split up.
Craig Reynolds, too.
Byron Marshall.
Byron Marshall, yeah.
So there is a ton of guys in the backfield, and they're still not sure how they're going to split up the carry. So both of those position groups are going to be really fun to watch in Richmond. So I think we should start with the quarterback position. And, who do you want to start with?
Let's start with Colt McCoy. He's been here the longest. I mean, he's been on their contract the longest. Fans really like Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy, what he does, I mean, he's a blue-collar guy. I mean, Asa, who's one of our videographers here, him and I, we went down to Austin, Texas this summer to see him. And we were just, getting him to talk about football, just being in Austin, playing at the University of Texas. And, how did, Texas shape him as a person, as a man. And it was just really insightful to hear, what he had to say. And I mean, he loves football, he loves Texas, but at the same time, he loves being a Redskin. And just everything that he's learned within this, organization. Of course, he's been a backup for some time, but, he showed that he can play, that he can start. Of course, starting with the Monday Night Miracle, what was that, 2015, 2016, somewhere around that range.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And even last year when, Alex Smith unfortunately went down, just, his will to drive the team back, get the team within arm's reach of winning that game against the Texans last year. So he's shown a lot of will, a lot of determination, and he's going to make it interesting, this offseason. A lot of people aren't talking about Colt McCoy. All you hear about right now, and rightfully so, all you heard about is Dwayne Haskins and Case Keenum, because those are the 2 guys that's thrown in training camp. I mean, not training camp, but OTAs and minicamp. Yep. So Colt McCoy, I feel like will make, some leaps and bounds this offseason, especially in training camp. I mean, he's using all these articles, all these stories about, a 1-2 race between Case Keenum and Dwayne Haskins. He's using that to motivate him, basically saying like, hey, I've been here the longest. I know this offense. Yeah, these guys are good at what they do, but hey, I can bring my talents to the table too, and I can compete. And I want to compete. I mean, he said he's competed every year since he's been a Redskin, so he knows the ins and outs of the game, and I feel like he's going to be, a force to be reckoned with this training camp.
Yes, I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how he fits in with the dynamic of Dwayne and Case. So he's still recovering from the injury last year, so that's why people aren't talking about him. If he was suited up, taking reps, there would be a ton of stories about him too. So it's just a matter of getting him back for training camp. Gruden said he'll be all good to go by then. He was on the practice fields during minicamp and OTAs. Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things about Colt McCoy is that he's been in the system. And that's something that Dwayne Haskins and Case Keenum haven't done.
They're still learning this.
They're still learning the system. And so not only is Colt going to come in and he's going to be fully healthy, he's already been through this for multiple years. So
Alex Smith, Kirk Cousins,
he's been through all that. Yeah.
So he understands.
Exactly. So that just adds a whole new dimension to the quarterback competition, and it's going to be fascinating because we've seen so much from Case and Dwayne right now, but it's still only June.
Right.
So end of June. So it's going to be really interesting. I think we should probably shift over to the guys who have been competing for the starting job right now, and I guess we could start with. What do you want to start?
Case Keenum.
Case Keenum.
Let's go. Okay. I feel like we should go just length of being here. So of course, Colt McCoy has been there longest, and then Case Keenum got here in February, March. Don't quote me on that, but I know it was by March. So
I think it was March. Yeah,
he's been here the second longest. So we can go Case Keenum. I'll let you start.
All right, cool. So yeah, Case Keenum obviously acquired from the Broncos in the offseason. He entering his 7th year, so he's been around. He's played for 4 or 5 different teams, I think, and so. He's looked pretty good during minicamp and OTAs. He seems like he has a better presence in the pocket when he's getting rushed.
Yeah.
Maybe in comparison to Dwayne Haskins, he seems like he can kind of move around the pocket, go through his progressions. Yeah. Whereas if the first receiver isn't open for Dwayne, he might tuck it and run instead of trying to still make a play. So. I mean, I like what I've seen from Case so far. He seems to have a good rapport with Cam Sims. Hit him on a couple bombs for touchdowns during the team session.
Yep.
But I think he's just an interesting guy and a guy who loves the Redskins' offensive system. He said that, post practice.
He said it's like Portuguese. No, he's learning Portuguese.
Yeah. So he said learning offenses is like learning new languages.
Yeah.
And then he said this is like Spanish or. I've learned Spanish, but this is more like Portuguese. So, and then he talked about Jay Gruden's West Coast offense, and he says there's no Rosetta Stone for their West Coast offense.
That's true.
So
that's true.
So he's still learning. He's been working through some things, but again, he's a veteran guy. He's been in NFL systems before, so remains to be seen.
I like Case Keenum. Just visually, I mean, of course. You and I, we've seen numerous amounts of games, practices on TV, but like actually in person, like just visually seeing, I think Case Keenum is the best practice quarterback I've ever seen in my life.
Wow. Okay.
Best practice quarterback. Like I said, I've never seen him in a game, so I can't like say like, hey, this guy's the best game ready quarterback, game quarterback I've ever seen. But just from what I've seen, from being around him, he can pretty much make every throw. I mean. Inside, outside, he can throw the deep ball. I mean, he's accurate. One thing that stood out to me was 2-minute. Of course, after every practice and mini camp and OTAs, they do a 2-minute drill where Jay Gruden gives them 2 minutes and they have different scenarios. And I think almost every day he threw a touchdown, and a lot of those touchdowns were like. Really good balls where there was like a 60-yard bomb or it was, putting it between 2 linebackers, squeezing it in a tight window, throwing it to, like you said, Cam Sims. I mean, he's been in the NFL for so long. I mean, so he knows how the game is played. He understands the speed of the game. So that helps. That's what separates him, in my opinion, from, any other quarterback right now. But I think he can make some noise. Just going back to his playing days in Minnesota. Of course, everybody talks about that play when they beat the Saints to go to the NFC Championship game. And I think he still has a lot of that left. Of course, people don't – you have to take into account that when a guy goes to a new team – of course, he was in Denver last year. When a guy goes to a new team, that's a new learning curve. You may have similar coaches, the same coaches, but you have to learn, the player's speed. You got to know – what receiver runs what route and in what situation. Josh Doxson, his strides are longer than Terry McLaurin. So they may run a slant route, but that slant route is going to be run at different levels. I mean, they're going to catch it in different windows because just of their length. So, I mean, learning new guys, learning new plays, I feel like that was the big thing for me that separated him from Minnesota to Denver last year. Maybe him having some, similarities, knowing some of the guys. I know we're not going to talk about receivers just yet, but Brian Quick played with Case Keenum in L.A. when they played for the Rams.
Oh, yeah. He had a great year, too.
Great year.
That was his best years?
That was Brian Quick's best year. And, I mean, Case Keenum, I just saw on numerous occasions over training camp and OTAs. Not training. I keep saying training camp. Over OTA. During OTA. Yeah, mini camp and OTAs. those guys connected on a lot of passes. And I mean, Brian Quick's one of those receivers that's taller and longer, similar to your Cam Sims and your Josh Doxson. So we saw those guys make big plays. And like I said, Case Keenum, just from what I saw in practice, he was phenomenal. I mean, I think he's going to, he loves competition too. Every place he's been at in the NFL, I mean, whether it was, of course, it was St. Louis Rams starting off, but the LA Rams now, I mean, LA Rams before, Minnesota, Denver. I mean, it's been a competition literally every single team he's been on. So, like he said at it wasn't the Ryan Kerrigan Golf Classic. He did a scrum. It was one of those it was the Redskins Alumni Golf Classic, and he said, like, I've been in quarterback competition literally my entire career.
That's all he knows.
Yeah. Literally. So he's built for this. And just going to Dwayne Haskins, I feel like Dwayne, his arm, he has one of the biggest arms I've seen. And before I go, I know I can go forever, for days about Dwayne.
And we
but
did.
I'll
we
let
did
you,
on last week's
episode. Exactly. But I'll let you start off with Dwayne if you want to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know if we have to. We said a lot about him.
For sure,
like I said last week. So I don't think we have to say a ton.
That's a plug for fans to go watch episode 1.
Yeah, episode 1. Check it out.
Nice.
Redskins.com.
Yep. Dwayne Haskins, he's learning very fast. He's a sponge. And like you said, we talked about him a lot, but I think he can add every quarterback they add something different than every other quarterback. It's just the matter of what do you want in a quarterback as a fan, as a coach, anybody. What do you want in a quarterback? I mean, I feel like Dwayne probably has the biggest arm.
Yep.
Case Keenum is the most accurate, I feel like, in just my personal opinion. But Colt McCoy, when you think about Redskins offense, he's been in the offense for a long time. So he understands, he knows. I feel like if he's very well, Colt McCoy is he's game ready because he knows the plays. He doesn't have to, like you can open up the playbook more with Colt McCoy because he knows more plays.
Yeah.
So, but going back to Dwayne Haskins, his arm is the biggest thing that stands out to me.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to take away from minicamp OTAs is just that there's been times of inconsistency, and whether that be inaccurate throws, needing to get the plays down, and you saw that throughout, and that's normal for a rookie quarterback in his first few months. But in the throws that he did make, a couple of them were you watched him throw, and you watched his accuracy and his arm strength, and you thought to yourself, can anyone else on the roster do this?
Right.
And so that's really the biggest thing, is just continuing to try to be more consistent and just getting more reps with the entire team. He only had 3 days of veteran minicamp.
Right.
So training camp's going to be it should be a sped up learning curve, and if he can get there, like coaches think he can, then who knows?
Right.
But there's definitely the potential is there for him being he was a first round pick for a reason, and you saw that over the past month.
One thing I like about Dwayne is his composure. Like, I'm pretty sure, like him, like any other rookie right now, their head is probably spinning from the plays, just the formations, just everything, because a lot of these playbooks are different than what they were in college. Just speaking of Dwayne in general, he ran a spread offense in college. Of course, he threw for, almost 5,000 passing yards. I mean, he was
unbelievable in that 1 year.
Unreal. 50 touchdowns, broke almost every record, but still, like that, translating shotgun-only offense to a West Coast offense, that's a big difference. That makes anybody go crazy, especially at the quarterback position. And just seeing how Dwayne has handled that adjustment, I feel like it really shows what kind of person, what kind of man he is. I mean, he's very comfortable with being uncomfortable, and just seeing how he has adjusted, learning the play calls, always in meeting rooms, always in the coach's ear, just trying to learn on the go. In his Meet the Rookies, he said, I just want to be a sponge. And just from him saying that and putting that on the field, I feel like, I'm pretty sure you probably can agree too. He has been a sponge over these past few weeks, and starting from rookie minicamp to OTAs.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously he can learn from Case Keenum, Colt McCoy, a bunch of coaches that were former QBs, and then also a guy who we haven't brought up yet, Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Another guy that he can learn from. Alex, if you just want to touch on him so far, how obviously he went down with the injury last year and is still recovering. So maybe provide an update on him and what he can bring to this quarterback group, even though he's not on the field.
Yeah, Alex, of course, he had that unfortunate injury last year, which sucked. I mean, especially happening to such a great guy like that. Alex Smith he's such a great guy. Just seeing him in the locker room just this offseason has been, you could tell it's uplifted the guys in the locker room.
Yep.
Of course, there were those pictures that came out of him throwing, and it was all that speculation. We're not here to speculate, but just seeing him just with the ball in his hands, just on the field, just in the locker room, just around the guys, has been very encouraging and exciting to see. And just having him in that meeting room. Alex Smith is, 34 years old. He's been in the league for double-digit amount of years.
He's produced at the highest level for multiple teams, yeah.
And, I mean, just what he's done for the NFL, just for the game. In general, you have to respect that. And having a guy like that in the room, whether he plays this year, whether he doesn't, all these guys can learn from him, especially Dwayne Haskins. I feel like, in my opinion, Dwayne should be in Alex's ear saying, like, hey, Alex, like, what do you see here? What do you see here? They give me cover 2 here, and they check the cover 3 when I snap the ball. What should I see? I mean, I feel like he should be just on Alex, just getting him to, just to express what he sees, just being a sponge with Alex. And, I mean, Alex is such a great guy. I know Alex would be open to always coach these guys, always be, that guy in the room that's, saying like, hey, this is what I see in this progression or so on and so forth. So Alex, unfortunate injury. Of course, we want to see him play again. We hope to see him play again. I mean, signs are leading to him playing again. I don't know when, but one of these days. So it's just a matter of time of if he's not ready to play week 1, who can he help coach to get prepared for week 1? Because I think Alex wants to see this team win first and foremost.
Yeah, and just a quick update on his health because Gruden spoke about Alex whenever the end of OTAs and stuff, and he said he's recovering nicely, and he actually expects that Alex will be back sooner than people expect. Still not sure when that is, and he had that external fixator. He's still wearing that on his leg and he says he'll probably be in that for a couple weeks, a couple more weeks, and then he'll get it off. So, I mean, it's good to hear after an injury like that he's progressing and recovering, and his coaches and players obviously want him back as soon as possible. So
everyone's optimistic.
Exactly. It just remains to be seen how that recovery is going to go. So one more guy, right? We got one more guy.
Who's the other guy?
Josh Woodrum. Josh Woodrum signed from the AAF, right?
Salt Lake Stallions.
So Josh actually played quarterback at Liberty.
Wow, did he?
And Jake, Gabe, as we know, played receiver at Liberty. So, Gabe, tell us about Josh and what he's like.
In my non-biased opinion, because Josh was my quarterback for 3 years. So, long story short, I came in as a quarterback, supposed to get surgery. Josh came in, and Josh became the starting quarterback. I moved to receiver.
Okay.
And from my redshirt sophomore year until my redshirt senior year, Josh was my quarterback, like I already said. And he can throw the ball. I'll just leave it at that. He can put the ball in tight places. He can do everything you need. He's on a lot of different teams, so he knows a lot of different systems. He's played football for a while. I mean, so he understands the speed of the game, understands, just route concepts and everything. And I mean, even when Dwayne wasn't here, before rookie minicamp, before the draft, like we saw Josh out there making some plays. I think Josh can do some pretty good things if he gets the opportunity. If the opportunity presents itself, I feel like Josh would be ready for that moment. But just back to the front side, me and Josh have had some pretty good Saturdays in Lynchburg, Virginia. So he's my guy. I love talking to him. He's in that meeting room also. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's coaching those guys up. I talk to Josh almost every day. And, I mean, I just asked him, like, hey, like, how's it going? And what he said about Dwayne, just how Dwayne is a sponge and how Dwayne is ahead of the curve. And it's like, hey, Dwayne is ahead of that curve. I mean, you see it. I mean, he's been around. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he was in Baltimore last year.
Yep.
I mean, he's been with RG3. He's been with he was with the Packers for a little bit, with the Bills for a little bit. And then just being around a lot of good quarterbacks, for him to say something like that with Dwayne, speaking highly of Dwayne is very encouraging to see. So that's my guy. If he gets the opportunity, I know he's going to be ready.
Yeah, we'll see. So I think the biggest thing is that with this group, the best is yet to come. Gruden said that it would be foolish or kind of foolish to say who's in the lead or who's winning at this point because players are still rotating through. They don't even really have specific first and second teams yet. They're not in full pads.
None of these guys have been tackled yet.
There's guys that haven't even been here that will be back for training camp. So I'm just excited. That one of the biggest things that I'm looking forward to is seeing these guys come out and compete and seeing how it all shakes out.
And of course, this is going to be the most talked about position battle probably in the NFL. So us talking right now is just going to be one of a million other people talking. But I think that the hype is deserved, honestly, because there are a lot of good quarterbacks in this room, starting with, Alex, of course, and then Colt, Case, Dwayne, Josh. Like there's a lot of good competition in this room. So it's going to be an interesting, exciting position battle this offseason. And another position battle, which we're going to talk about next, is the running back position group. There are a lot of talented running backs in this room. I mean, you talked to Randy Jordan. I mean, Randy gave you some good quotes. I'll let you talk about that a little bit, but it's a lot of talent in this room, bro.
Yeah, so Randy Jordan, he's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Played the position, and then became a running backs coach. And so, he talked to the media after one of the minicamp days, and he said, by far the best running back group I've been a part of. And that's a huge compliment.
Right.
But when you think about who's in the room, it makes sense.
Right.
You have AP, one of the greatest running backs or one of the all-time rushers. Chris Thompson, one of the better pass catching option or running backs in the NFL. Darius Geis showed a ton in the limited time that he was healthy before getting hurt. And then you have Samaje Perine, who Gruden's high about, and then you have Bryce Love coming in addition to a couple other running backs. So it's a loaded backfield, and it's going to be fascinating to see how they split up the carries. What are your thoughts on the overall group, and then just trying to get into player by player?
I think just an interesting fact before we dive in. Did you know Randy Jordan scored the first running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise?
The first touchdown?
First ever. What did I say?
First running back?
Yeah, he scored the first.
He was the first running back.
As a running back, he scored the first touchdown for the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise.
Really?
Yeah, Tony Wiley told me that. So
wow,
big takeaway. But going into the running back room, when we talked to Randy Jordan, he basically said he's coached a lot of good guys, but he had that moment when AP was signed last August. He was like, oh shoot, that's AP, that's Adrian Peterson. So being able to coach him, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't say a dream come true, but I'm pretty sure it's very fulfilling, especially having a guy like AP listen to you. I mean, AP, just from his personality wise, he's probably one of the nicest guys you ever. It's between him and Chris Thompson as far as nicest, most genuine people you'll ever meet. And it's just seeing AP as a person, it's tough to put into mind of hey, this guy is a Hall of Famer, because he doesn't off the field, he doesn't talk about football. I mean, he's just a fun, charismatic guy to be around. But going back into football, this guy rushed for over 1,000 yards at the age of 33. I mean, he said he left about 500, 600 yards on the ground last year.
Yep.
So he can pretty much do whatever you need him to do. I don't think he has slowed down at all. I mean, of course, he had a few scares early in his career when he tore his ACL in Minnesota, but the year afterwards, he won NFL MVP, rushed for over 2,000 yards.
Yep.
I don't think there's so many good things I can say about AP. I mean, anything you need in a running back.
Yep.
That he's a all day, of course that's his nickname, all day, every play running back.
Exactly. And age is really just a number for him.
Seriously.
But like you said, he was the oldest player to rush for 1,000 yards for the Redskins since
crazy.
John Riggins, 1984.
Wow.
So and that was after they signed him in August after Geis went down. So he didn't have. Did he have a full? I don't think he had a full training camp.
No, he came. What was that? Week 3?
Yeah, he came late.
Yeah, it was the third preseason game.
Yeah,
and he played that game, and they were like, "All right, enough."
Exactly.
I think he rushed for over 50 yards. They were like, "Okay, this guy still has it."
Yeah, so he was a workhorse, 250 carries. But the thing is, yeah, like you said, he wants to do better. He said he left yards in the field last year. He said at minicamp that he wants to rush for 2,000 yards.
I believe it,
and he genuinely believes that he can do that.
Yeah.
And
That's crazy.
people have seen him do that before, a couple of years ago in Minnesota. So just having him in the room, he's a workhorse. He's a guy who they can rely on heavily if needed. And also he's a veteran presence in this room with a lot of younger guys. I mean, him and Chris Thompson are older.
Right.
But then Geis and Samaje and Bryce Love, younger guys that can just learn from AP and hope to, try to emulate what he's been able to do over his career.
I don't know about you, but AP, when mandatory minicamp, mandatory mini, I keep getting my words wrong, but mandatory minicamp, I feel like the OTAs leading up to mandatory, like the weather was pretty good outside, right? Like, I mean, the weather's been pretty good all of training, all of OTAs. But I feel like when mandatory minicamp, when AP showed up, I just feel like it just got more sunny here at Redskins Park. Like I just feel like the mood just livened up, and that's what AP can do to your locker room.
Exactly.
I mean, he just has that effect, and just seeing him back for mandatory minicamp, it was very exciting. I'm pretty sure fans are going to be pumped. I'm excited to see him play.
Yeah, so I think obviously fans are excited for AP. They might be more excited and more anticipating the return of Darius Geis.
For sure.
So
the Instagram legend.
The Instagram legend, yeah. So if you want to just start on him, what you saw from him last year, because obviously he hasn't done much this year. He's still been rehabbing, and what he can bring to the running back group.
Well, we didn't. I hate to sound like a jerk, but we didn't see much from him last year, right?
Yeah.
But just from what we saw, he showed a lot of flash. Like you can see a franchise running back in Darius Geis, and just seeing what he did did in those 2 games, it was like, all right, this dude can be good. Of course, that unfortunate injury happened, but just fast forwarding until now, 2019, just seeing that progression, seeing his spirits. I mean, he's still that guy that's going to walk in with a bounce in his step, talking to everybody, and just having that guy in the locker room, a healthy Geis in the locker room with AP, it can be a scary backfield, man. I'm gonna just leave it at that. I mean, who was that? Josh Norman. He was on Redskins Nation last week. He was talking with Larry Michael, voice of the Redskins, and was saying, like, hey, he told Larry, he's like, this might be the best backfield he's ever been a part of.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty fair to say. I mean, Randy Jordan said it, but Josh Norman, who's on the defensive side of the ball, pretty much offense and defense during the week, they're 2 different teams.
Oh, yeah.
And then during the game, they're 1 team. So having a guy from the defensive side of the ball say that about a running back group, and then having Darius Geis, who's going to be an integral part of that core, having him come back and be healthy is going to be key.
Exactly. And so just between him and AP, Randy Jordan was saying ideally would be a 50-50 split, 60-40 split. Obviously, you'd have Chris Thompson, a couple carries per game, but mostly getting his work in third down. And it's tough because both AP and Geis are every down backs, and they want the ball on every play.
Right.
So
that's what you want out of your running back.
Exactly, and that's what Randy Jordan said. He's because AP was like, yeah, I want to be the starter, and Randy Jordan was like, yeah, he wouldn't be AP if he didn't want that, if he didn't want to carry the entire load, and just like he did last year. So, but could you imagine having a fresh, say AP and Geis had 10 to 12 carries per game. You're getting a fresh Adrian Peterson, a fresh Darius Geis going against wearing down a defense.
Exactly.
And then you have the change of pace back with Chris Thompson. So I don't know how it's going to work out. We'll see if it's a split. We'll see if one guy gets a little more carries. We'll see if someone else steps in. But there's just a lot of talent there. So it's really, however they use them, you can't go wrong. Really.
Yeah. I asked Randy Jordan, I said mentally prepare. I know we're just talking about these 2 guys. We got a lot of running backs to go. But I asked him, I was like, what's preparing mentally wise, what's the difference? What's like the main difference between AP and Geis?
Yeah.
And he said AP is one of those guys, when he comes in the meeting room, they got those tablets now. So, you can, watch film on a tablet, do whatever you need. He said AP comes in with a 3-ring spiral notebook.
I love that.
With the pen, and he's like taking plays with that. And Randy was like, hey, we got this technology. And AP was like, no, like I want to write on this. So Geis, on the other hand, he said Geis is so special because he remembers like the second or third day he came in after he got drafted, and they were going through film, and Geis didn't have like anything with him, like no notebook, nothing. And it was like why don't you have Randy was like, why don't you have your stuff out? And Geis was like, I can remember all of this. So the next day he came in and Randy tested him, and he said Geis literally knew every single thing that he talked about. Said he's a magician. He said, of course, he takes notes now.
Yeah.
But, like, having that dynamic, he was like, hey, these guys are animals on the field, but they prepare so much different, which makes them so unique.
Yeah, wow. That's like kind of like me and you. I got the written out notes, and you typed them up and printed them out.
I should have brought my computer.
Yeah, you should have. So either way, it works.
Going to CT now.
Yeah.
Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson, I think he's special. I'll let you go. I'll let you talk about him now.
Yeah, I got a couple things with CT. Obviously, so he missed 12 games the past 2 seasons. He's dealt with injuries.
Mm-hmm.
He's dealt with injuries for a lot of his career.
Yeah.
But he said he's pretty much the healthiest that he's been.
Yeah.
He even said last year that the ankle injury that he suffered in 2017 was more of a year-and-a-half injury. So
Yeah.
he was playing through that pain in
crazy.
2018, and just him having a full off season to be healthy, and also knowing that there's so many other running backs and a lot of receivers who can carry the load offensively. It's just going to make him that much more explosive when he gets on the field. So I'm happy for him to know that he's healthy, and he's been at all the OTAs and the veteran mini camp, just trying to get better every day. And I know this offseason work's going to help him going into training camp and going forward.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. Just I think this is the first time in 2 or 3 years where he actually had a off season to train,
Exactly.
to train towards football. And I mean, previous off seasons have been used to rehab. But funny story, he said he went down to Texas to train with AP.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that?
Yep.
And he was. I asked him. I was like, "Hey, like, how was it?" And he just dropped his head. He's like, "Crazy." I was like, "You're supposed to be on there for a month or 2 months." He was like, "Man, after 2 weeks, I probably got 2 months worth of work down there with AP." So, I think just that alone, of course, him going down there with AP, but just to be able to, go somewhere else to train with somebody else, and then come back and bring what he's taught and bring back what he's taught. That's going to make the team better. So, I think just him having a full off season to recover. I mean, of course, fans are looking back on that 2017 season, which was his breakout season. 2016 was a good year, but 2017 was that breakout year before he got injured against the Saints. But I think if, him having a year like that, having an off season the way he's having the off season he's having now, having an off season like that with, that thought in mind of 2017, what he was, how explosive he was then, building on that to now, I think this year can be special for him because you know how big third downs are in the NFL and third downs are in football.
Yep, and just receiving, running backs catching the balls out of the backfield is huge.
He's the best receiving back we have.
I mean, you have look at Alvin Kamara. He's made a killing over it past 2 years. So CT is going to be exciting to watch.
Yep.
Obviously, adds another dimension to the running back room. Another guy who could add more of a physical, bigger presence, just like AP, is Jay Gruden's. Seems like his favorite guy.
Yeah,
Samaje Perine. And so he brought him up during the owners' meetings back in February. He was talking about the running backs, and he went out of his way to mention Samaje and how he's upset that he hasn't been able to get as many opportunities, and Gruden said it was his fault that he couldn't get him on the field more. And from that point through OTAs and minicamp, he's continued to hype him up. I mean, even the last press conference that he had, he was saying that Samaje's done a really nice job taking the first team reps while AP wasn't in attendance for the OTAs and Geis was sidelined, and how he's a big back, a guy who he really wants to see fit into this group. Yeah. So there's a ton of guys, and I don't know exactly how it works, but based on what he said about him,
he's going to have to big bucks.
He's going to have to get some opportunities somehow. I mean, what do you think he can add?
Man, he's Oklahoma's all-time leading rusher. Yeah. People forget about that. I mean,
and he's only what? He's young too.
He's just only his third year in the league.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think it's just the circumstances he's been put in. I mean, he loves to compete. I mean, we've seen him in goal line situations. It's just the fact of him wanting to expand that role, the role that he had in, I think it was 2016, 2017 when he got drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, he had over 600 rushing yards that year. So I mean, I'm pretty sure he has that in the back of his head. I'm pretty sure the coaches know, like, hey, this guy rushed for 600 yards that year. I mean, he can run. It's just the fact of competing and winning that spot with AP, with guys, CT and those guys. I mean, Jay Gruden's high on him. It's just the fact of, him getting that opportunity to, showcase his talents again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have a couple more running backs here. We can go through them.
Byron Marshall.
Byron Marshall.
I like him.
You go. A couple things on Byron.
Byron, we saw him play a little bit last year. Not a lot at running back, but when he got in at the running back position, I mean, he showed flashes. He showed signs. I mean, we saw him a lot on special teams, which is a great way to stay on the bus, to get on that plane every Sunday. So I mean, he understands the ins and outs of the game. I feel like he can be really special, especially having him as an off kick returner, having that guy that can blow up, make holes for the returner. Even the ball kicked to him, and he's fast enough to make plays.
Yep. I
mean, his college stats show that he can ball. Of course, he didn't play every game his senior year, but just alone, just him being in that Pac-12, being in that high, fast-paced conference of offense, him being able to thrive. I mean, I think he's the only running back to have 1,000 receiving yards plus 1,000 rushing yards.
Wow.
I mean, that's unheard of. So he can play. It's just a matter of a fact of him winning that competition. That's going to be the running back position going to be a really big competition.
Yeah, another Pac-12 guy.
Yep.
Bryce Love.
Yeah.
4th-round pick. We talked about him again last week, but he's a guy who rushed for 2,000 yards in 2017 before he got hurt, and so he's still rehabbing now. We don't know what the timetable is for his return. But just based on his college production and what the coaches have said about him, he's a guy who might be able to get it, break into that running back room and get carries, and we'll see.
Yeah.
Because anything can happen.
Anything.
And, so that's Bryce.
Yeah.
And then still got to talk about Craig Reynolds.
Craig Reynolds.
Yeah, so.
It's Kutztown, right?
Yeah, Kutztown.
I'm terrible at pronouncing. Ike Waddell was last week, right?
Ike Waddell, yeah. Kutztown in Pennsylvania, actually went to the same college as our video producer, Blaze.
Oh.
So
Blaze is in the building, guys.
Blaze is in the building, so shout out to Blaze. He puts out great stuff in video and social and stuff. So, yeah, so Kutztown guy, undrafted. He actually earned a spot. He earned a spot after rookie minicamp. And in a room as crowded as the Redskins running back room, for him to make the team, or for them to sign him after that, says a ton.
lot.
And I know in the mic'd up with Kevin O'Connell, Craig had one run. He was like, oh, that's a good cut, Randy Jordan. That's a good cut. So he was hyping him up. But he's just another guy who 5'11".
Was that a pun?
Wait, what?
Cut. That's a good cut. Cuts down.
Oh,
another dad joke, guys. I'll let you proceed.
that went way over my head. But anyway, super productive at Kutztown. He's 5'11", 215. Just another guy who could potentially be a change of pace.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Craig Reynolds. We'll see. But so
maybe he's willing to bust his special teams.
He might be.
Byron Marshall did it. There's a lot of running backs that you see around the NFL. A lot of guys on the bottom of the on the depth chart per se that still find a way on the team because of special teams, and then they work their way into a position, into a role in the running back group. I mean, these guys work hard. I mean, it's coming from, that's a D2 school, right? Kutztown.
Blaze,
is that a D?
That's
a D2.
Blaze says
Give
yes.
us a thumbs up.
Yeah,
it's a D2 school, so that says a lot about a player who comes from a D2 school and make rounds in the NFL. So I think he can be special. Just a matter of when will that opportunity present itself. I mean, he broke almost every rushing record at Kutztown University. So I think he can be special. It's just a matter of when that opportunity comes, what is he going to do with it?
Yeah. So that's all the running backs. We got 7 running backs on here.
Yeah. 5 quarterbacks.
5 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So just a couple of crowded position groups, which is going to make it a ton of fun.
Yep.
Come Richmond at the end of July. Any final thoughts with either of these groups?
I think this is going to be, these 2 groups, along with the receiver position, is going to be the most talked about position group in the NFL. I think of course we can say in with the Redskins, but I feel like in the NFL this is going to be talked about a lot, and rightfully so. And there's a lot of special guys in these 2 position groups. So that's all I got for today.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about them all season.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the running backs, because there's times where, okay, a guy might be a little banged up. There's another guy coming in. It's just going to be, I feel like it's just going to be a mix and match. You know, who's hot today, you know, who's looking good, who might not be. So we're going to be talking about this a lot. So it's good to kind of get all these guys out there, give some background, give what we think they can provide, and then eventually we'll start seeing some results, and we can talk about that.
Nice, man. Well, it's Friday, best day of the week. Next Friday we'll be here, right here. Rundown,
Redskins
Part 3.
Park.
Redskins Park. Rundown, episode 3. Cal, it's always a pleasure with you, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Appreciate you. That is the Rundown.